Okay, everybody, welcome. Welcome to this segment of Ask the Experts. My name is Bryce Adams with Trimble Forensics. I am here with Trooper Chris Lutes from the Nebraska State Highway Patrol, also a certified forensics trainer for us as well. Some house cleaning stuff there that we want to talk about before we dive into this session of point cloud cleanup. We expect this to be anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour long, depending on questions and answers after the presentation. It is going to be kind of a live demonstration that Chris is actually going to do inside RealWorks. So we're going to show a short video before that, just to kind of kick things off. So what I would say is understand there's going to probably be some technical issues, and we'll try to get those sorted out if they do pop up. We want to handle questions towards the end, and Yasir Chaddy, who is product manager or one of the product developers for us, is actually going to handle those questions at the end of the live presentation. So write down some of the questions. We're anxious to hear them, and we hope we can help you through this. So as I was saying, my name is Bryce Adams with Trimble Forensics. I have been with, if you can transition a slide there, Chris. I've been with Trimble Forensics for about 4 years now, and previously I was with 16 years on law enforcement in a department in Ohio. I was a crash reconstructionist, background is crash recon and crime scene analysis, ACTAR accreditations, and I've actually been doing a lot of instructing for Trimble and previously visual statement since about 2008. My role with Trimble is basically talking to law enforcement in the consulting fashion to then be able to help with possible further development and then sales as well. Try to consult a little bit of how the sales should look and really what you guys really need as far as law enforcement needs. With us today is Trooper Chris Lutes. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. So as Bryce said, my name is Chris Lutes. I'm currently employed with the Nebraska State Patrol. I've been there for about 12 years. I'm one of the crash reconstructionists for our agency and also one of the area reconstruction coordinators. During my time, I've served everywhere from motor carrier enforcement. I've been in traffic services, and I've been in technical crimes investigations for a while. I'm currently one of our instructors for our agency, as well as an instructor for IPTM and a trainer for Trimble Forensics. So with our agency, my background is I map both crash and crime scenes, and then also do analysis on those. And I am also ACTAR accredited. And at the bottom, I'm also the host of the Trimble Forensics Tech Tip Tuesday series on YouTube. If you haven't been there already, we have a series up on YouTube, and I'll let you go check that out if you want, but that's my introduction. I don't quite have as long a resume as Bryce, but I'm getting there.
Okay, again, we're going to kind of roll into this and get diving into what exactly the point cloud is going to serve for you as far as the Reveal forensic software. I'm sorry, the RealWorks forensic software. We get a lot of questions throughout the week of, why are we floating our scans into RealWorks and then into Reveal? And we're going to kind of try to talk about the advantages of what RealWorks gives us when we're in there and we're using it properly. So some of the agenda items here we're going to cover is basically the tree and the folder structure of the RealWorks forensics for the user interface. Chris will dive into that, and then also auto classification and versus the segmentation of point clouds, the two different ways of actually doing it, and the ease of use and the management of those two, as well as the point cloud exports coming out of RealWorks into Reveal for the later diagramming and telling the story of the scene. So that's the importance there. All right, so some of the advantages of working in the point cloud in RealWorks. Number one, if you're bringing any type of scenes through SX10 and the X7 hardware and bringing that stuff into RealWorks, it gives you the advantages of doing registration checks. Although we can get that registration, we can bring those scans together at the scene on our field software. we still have the capability of bringing that into RealWorks and just doing a double check to make sure that the registrations all look good as they look out at the scene, already prepared. We can also Geo Reference inside of Trimble RealWorks Forensics as well as in Reveal. So if we need to tag in any type of Geo Referencing, we can do that as inside RealWorks very easily, as well as scan cleanup. So any type of parasites, any noise, anybody walking through the scenes, if we do have to have vehicles moving around and we do catch some of that during the scanning phase, we can quickly get rid of that and really not only preserve the raw scan, but also clean the raw scan up so we can then do later analysis and diagramming. Scene organization is very important. So we inside of RealWorks, we can work with the scan, know what the analysis is going to look like, and then also build the analysis into a presentation form for Reveal when we start diagramming. The two that we're really going to cover though today is number one going to be the auto classification. Go ahead, Chris. And also segmentation. So let's see, Chris, if you can go ahead and click on those slides, please. All right, Chris, did we lose you? He just sent me a message saying he lost his audio. He's fixing it now. So Murphy showed up for the first time on our webinar here. And those that don't know Murphy, congratulations. Murphy is basically Murphy's law that what can go wrong will. There we go. So we got auto classification management. So RealWorks does have the advantages of running a very quick auto classification and identifying objects inside the point cloud and quickly refiling them for you. Outside of auto classification, we're going to talk about segmentation management as well. So go ahead and transition that, Chris, if you would. There we go. So those two are two different management systems. Sometimes they work together. Sometimes we don't address it together. We can kind of pick and choose on which one we want to work with. And next slide.
Here's a simple way to explain how segmentation works. We have our pool of data called Project Cloud. In that pool is a bunch of data represented here as letters. We decide what pool we want to pull from, and we want to segment out letters D, E, F, and G, and place them in a new pool.
So I do believe we had our second snafu on technical issues here. So basically what the video is covering is
and create another new pool with H, I, and J from the Project Cloud. But now I want to create a pool that has F, G, and H. To do that, I right-click on the Project Cloud and select Get All Points. This refills the main pool with the missing points and allows us to create another pool with a different combination of data that overlaps both Pool 1 and Pool 2. So now that we've explained the concept, let's work on segmenting our data in Trimble RealWorks Forensics.
So I have my data set loaded up in Trimble RealWorks Forensic, and I'll just take a real quick look around what we have. We have a four-way intersection. It just looks like some parasites in here, some people walking through the scene. We've got a couple stop signs here and over on the other side as well. So we've got another stop sign there, and we've got a road sign, and we've got a village sign here. We've got a few things that we want to have in our scene, as well as a house with a car in front of it and a couple cars in the driveway and a playset in the back. So for this scene, what I want to do is I want to grab the car, and I'll grab these two cars as well, and want to grab my road signs. So in my item list down here in the bottom left, we have our Project Cloud, and this is 52 million points and some change. Now this is everything. When I click the light bulb,
You'll notice that that is everything. When I click it back, it turns everything back on. So what I'm going to do is I want to grab my car first. So I'm going to select my project cloud because I want to select what I'm segmenting. I'm going to go to my Edit tab. I'm going to click on Segmentation. So now what I'm going to do is just draw a box around the car. And once I've reached here, I'm going to double click, and that will stop drawing a fence. What I will do is I will keep the points inside the area, and it's going to create a small section of data here. I'm going to move around to the side here. I'm going to chop this down just a little bit more. So highlight around, double click, click the green box to select in. And I'm just going to trim around this just a little bit better. And I can just keep going and trimming away until I have the points that I want. I'll just click along the bottom. And this should get me my car. It looks like one more, missed a few points on the back side of it. All right, and with that, I'm pretty happy with that. That's got my entire car without any ground in it. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create my new cloud. Now, if I was classifying this or if I already had classifications built in, I could change the classification of the car. But for this, I'm just going to create a new cloud. Now, you notice we have 52,282,000 points. When I click on Create New Cloud, it creates our object, or as it was explained earlier, it is our pool of data. And you notice that our point cloud or our project cloud has now reduced by that amount. So we've taken those objects or those points out of our project cloud and then put it into an item marked object 1. Now what I want to do is I want to grab another car. So I'm going to move over here. And I want to grab this car here. So I'll just draw a box around it. Keep what's inside. I'll go to a slightly different vantage point. And just to make things easy, I'll just draw a quick box around. And I will keep what's inside. And I'll do one more here. I'll keep what's inside, and we're ready to go. So now I'm going to create another new cloud, and this will be called Object 2. Now, when I'm done with this, you'll notice now that our 2 cars are here, and they're called Object 1 and Object 2. So I will just call this Car 1, and this will be Car 2. Now, when I turn my project cloud back on, that is everything except for the cars. So right now we're just looking at project cloud, and you'll notice that the point cloud color is right here. To see what we have here as far as our clouds, we can change it to our cloud color. What that will do is that our project clouds, so the things that aren't already assigned as an object, are white, and our car 1 and car 2 are yellow. So it kind of gives you an indication of what you have to work with. So I'm going to turn those off. Now I'm at a point here where I would like to have these 2 cars as their own data set. But part of my data set is in one cloud already, and then the rest of it is in project cloud. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click and I'm going to select Get All Points, and that's going to repopulate the project cloud with those points we've already pulled out. So from here, what I'm going to do is in my project cloud, I'm going to do a segmentation, and I'm going to grab both cars as a single object. It would help if I change my view. Sometimes changing your view over to perspective, or I'm sorry, parallel projection will make it a little easier to get parallel with your ground and get in there and get what you need. So I double clicked and I click keep points in. See, we now have a fairly clean object. So I'm going to create that. And it colored this one yellow as well. What I'm going to do is change my coloring for my other cloud here, just so that it's a slightly different color, make it a little easier to see. All right, so I've changed my coloring for my clouds. I'm going to do a group of cars. So now when I exit out of my segmentation tool, I now have a group of cars that are in red. So I'll turn on my project cloud just so we can see what we're working with here. See, we have our car 1, car 2, and group of cars. Now, if we wanted to, with our car here, so that is car 1, if we want to break that up into front and rear, or if we wanted to split this car this way, what we could do is we could take our car, go to our Edit tab and Segmentation. We're just going to split our car in half. And I want to keep the points that are in. Now it looks good. And I'm going to create a new cloud. Exit. And then I'm going to call this one top of car 1. And now my car 1 is now split into 2 pieces. So all I'm doing here is I'm just taking one cloud and I'm subdividing it into 2. Now, if I don't like that, if I want to put my car back together, so right now I have my car 1 and top of car 1 are 2 separate clouds. What I can do is I can click on car 1, control click on top of car. I can right click and merge them back together. And it's going to rename it as merge. I am going to rename it back to car 1. And now our car 1 is back in one piece. Again, keep in mind, our project cloud also has a copy of that data. Since we did the right click and get all points, it has a copy of our data except for our group of cars. What I'm going to do is I'm going to repopulate my project cloud. So I'm going to say get all points, and it's going to bring it back. So what this will allow you to do is really create nice subsets of data that will really make it a lot easier when you go into Reveal. And if you want to have separate objects, you can definitely segment them out here and then export those as separate E57s.
All right, so hopefully that helped explain kind of the purpose of segmentation and what things look like when we segment them out of our project cloud. And again, our project cloud has everything, and we just create subsets of that data. So at this point, I am going to jump right into RealWorks here, and we will get started. All right, so I have RealWorks opened up, and I've ingested a Sorry about that. I have ingested a set of X7 data that was scanned at a intersection down in Nashville, and they did a really nice job getting everything in this intersection. So right now we're in the registration view, and we have our tree over here to the left. Now, one of the hard things to teach or hard things to understand is how this area over here on the left is structured, in that we have a tree coming down here, and then we have things inside of that tree. So if I click on, say, Nashville X7_1, we have the things that are inside of that. And the real easy way to explain this, we work with it all the time, is the Windows File Explorer. We have a tree over here to the left. So if I scroll up just a little bit, this is my reveal, my documents reveal folder, and it's nothing but a tree. It has my main folder on down, and if I expand out this level of the tree, it gives me my diagrams. And then when I click on one of them, it brings up the objects that are inside of it. So you can think of the RealWorks workspace area. Up here, we have our tree, which is on the left, and down below, we have our objects that are inside of that tree. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move over into production. Now, one of the things on our agenda today is discussing the auto classification feature in Trimble RealWorks Forensic, and this is something that I use a lot. My job is not to edit point clouds and to clean up point clouds. My job is to investigate crashes and crime scenes and put together a case packet for prosecution and then move on to the next case. Point cloud processing is not my job. It's the means to get a product. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time in here, and going through here one by one and cleaning these out sometimes can be an awfully difficult and time-consuming task if you just do, I want to get rid of this, and I want to get rid of this, and I want to get rid of this, and I want to get rid of this, especially when you have people walking around your scene, things moving in between scans and setups. It can really become a very tedious task. So one of the really nice features about Trimble RealWorks Forensic is the ability to automatically classify or automatically clean up our scenes for us, so that we can get closer to having a finished product and move on to our next case. Because if anything like me, we've got cases that are stacked up. We've got a list of things we need to get done, so we don't need to spend a whole lot of time here going through manually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my project cloud, and just like the earlier video that's on the Tech Tip Tuesday YouTube series, we're going to select which cloud we want to do or we want to use, which is our project cloud. This has everything in it. And in our Edit tab, we're going to auto classify outdoor, and we're not going to worry about the house that's here. We're just going to auto classify outdoor. When I click on that, it's going to bring up a menu and it's going to ask me, what do you want to extract, or what do you want me to look for? And what I'm going to do is, typically what I do is just have it look for everything. Go ahead, look for everything that you can possibly recognize and give me the results. And then what we would do is we would hit extract. Now, instead of hitting extract, this process can take 4, 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending upon the speed of your computer and how large a data set and what you're looking for. Normally, I would just hit extract and let the computer work. However, what I've done is I've already processed this, and what I'm going to do is just pull up RealWorks after everything has been classified. So you notice here on our left in our workspace, you'll notice that the project cloud is still here, but now we have other things called buildings, poles and signs, ground, high vegetation, power lines, and remaining. Now our project cloud, again, is everything. That's 52 million points. Our auto classification, what it does is it takes our project cloud, it looks for things, and then it extracts those as copies down here in our building, poles and signs, ground, high vegetation, power lines, and remaining. Now in our building, you'll notice that this is a folder where the others are clouds. When we open up the building group, it's going to look for any buildings in there. So I'm going to go up one level. I'm going to turn my project cloud off so we don't have anything showing. I'm going to go into my building and I'm going to turn it on, and RealWorks recognized our building. Next, what I'm going to do is look in our poles and signs. And instead of a single cloud, it found multiple things and separated them out into multiple clouds. So as I zoom out, we have our pole that's here. And we just brought in our other pole. And you can look down through here, and we can see all of our poles. Now you notice that it does colorize them different colors. If I want to figure out which pole is which, instead of walking down through and turning things on and off and trying to figure it out through process of elimination, we can change our colorization here. Instead of true color, we can change it to cloud color. And that cloud color comes from the color right here in our workspace. So of our poles and signs, I'm just going to take my house and I'm going to hide it. Of our poles and signs, I don't really care about any of these others, but I do care about this stop sign. This stop sign is important in our case, and I want to keep that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rename that. Instead of poles and signs 4, I'm just going to rename it stop. And I don't really want this stop sign to be in the group with the light poles and things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag it out of that group. Now, when I'm outside of that group, you'll notice now that we have our ground, high vegetation, power lines remaining, and stop. So now what I want to do is I want to take my poles and signs and I want to hide those. And I want to turn on my ground. And here it is a very lovely shade of purple. And I think I'm going to change that because that's beginning to grate on me just a little bit. I'll just make it like a light yellow just so it provides a little bit more contrast. So we looked and found our stop sign. We wanted to find our high vegetation. It created a cloud for us with high vegetation. It also found our power lines. Now, if these were pertinent to our case, I would probably export those, but since they aren't, I'm going to turn them off. And we have our remaining, which is the things that Trimble RealWorks Forensic looks at and says, I don't really know what this is, so I'm just going to throw it in a bucket and you figure it out. So of importance in this case, you notice we found a single stop sign on one end of the intersection, but we have a stop sign on the other end. And this one is important to our case as well. So what I want to do is I want to grab this and I want to pull it out of our remaining group. So I'm going to turn off my ground. I'm going to turn off my high vegetation. I'm going to turn off my stop sign. And now I just have the things in my remaining group. I'm going to select my remaining, which is this cloud. And I am going to segment just this stop sign. So again, this stop sign does have a role to play in our case. I'm going to keep the points inside the area. And what I want to do is I want to change the classification of this. Right now it's unclassified, but I want to change it to, it listed as transmission tower, but it's the same classification as our poles and signs. So I want to change my classification and I want to create that. You notice now here in the bottom left, we have our object 13. And I'll just call this one stop sign 2. And there we have it. So now when I turn on my ground and my 2 stop signs, I now have both of my stop signs available to me, and I can turn on my building. And we also have our car that was put into remaining. So what I would do here is I would go in if this car had a role to play in my case and I wanted to bring that over into reveal, I would go ahead and segment that out and put that in its own cloud. Our poles and signs and our street signs, those would have a role to play in our case, so I would segment those out as well. Why don't I just go ahead and do that? So I'm going to select my remaining layer. I'm going to segment out my road sign. I'm going to tell it that this is a sign. And I'll create it. Now I can move over to my next part, which we have a village sign here. So I'm going to click around and segment that out. That's also a sign. I'll create that cloud, and I'll just walk through here finding things that matter to me. And this car matters. And I'm going to leave this as unclassified just because it doesn't really fit any of my classifications. I am going to, on another tech tip, go more into the classifications and how to create your own classification for your project. So if you want to classify things your own way rather than using the canned classifications built into RealWorks, I'll show you how to do that on one of my Tech Tip Tuesday videos. So what I will do is I'll create a new cloud with just my car. And I'm pretty happy with that. So I've got 3 new objects. I'll get zoomed out. And I have my road sign. So I'll rename that. I have my village sign. Call that VS. And I have my car. So now I have the things that matter to me for my case, and you'll notice that this road is nice and cleaned up. I'm not going to have to worry about diagramming or having any problems with this point cloud when I take it into reveal. So what I'll do is I will turn on the things that I want to export, which are my, get them here, my poles and signs. So I want to export those. I want to export my ground, my road sign, my village sign, and my car, as well as my 2 stop signs. So from here, what I'll do is I'll start with my ground. I will click on my ground point cloud, and I will just export the selection. And you see I've already exported these just in preparation for the webinar, so you all don't have to sit through me going through all these things because it's repetition. I'm going to do the same thing for everyone. So when I click on ground, I want to export my ground. I hit save, and it'll save it as ground.e57. Once I've got my ground, my stop signs, my village sign, my road sign, my car, I've got the things that matter to me, and I'm ready to go into reveal. So from here, once I am in reveal, I've already ingested these, again, trying to save you all from having to sit through a lot of repetition, doing the same thing over and over and over again. I have ingested all of these into reveal, and this is what it would look like. So I have my clouds here, and this is my roadway signs, poles, house, car, and ground. If I am working on, let me turn everything but my ground off. Here in reveal, I have a nice clean point cloud. I don't have any of the parasites, any of the cars driving through, people walking through my scene, the inevitable fire truck that's parked right where we don't need it to be so that we can document our evidence. All of that is gone, and I'm ready to start diagramming. From here, when I want to place my car in my driveway, once I have my roadway in and I have everything surfaced, what I'll do is I'll turn on my car point cloud. And now I am set to place my, oh, let me get zoomed out here. Now I'm already set to place my model of my car in where it needs to be. When I'm ready to draw in my house, if that was pertinent to my scene, I can turn the point cloud on and draw in my house. If I just wanted to work on the house without anything else distracting me or having anything else in the way, I can just turn everything else off and only work on my house. And I found that with really complicated scenes, especially indoor and outdoor, it helps to really break those point clouds up and give it a nice clean surface or a nice clean canvas to start my diagramming from, rather than having a whole bunch of clutter there. All right, so I went through that awfully fast, and that wraps up the auto classification and segmentation functions built into Trimble RealWorks Forensic. And again, its purpose is to just get us to a nice clean point cloud that we can get our diagram done from, and we can do our analysis. I like to spend my time doing analysis and not so much time editing point clouds. I want to get to the meat and potatoes doing the analysis so that I can present my case packet, and the auto classification and segmentation tools really allow me to get to that very, very quickly. So that wraps up my demonstration with Trimble RealWorks Forensic and the auto classification and segmentation tools. If any of you have any questions, like I said, I know I went through that awfully fast. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to open it up for those.
Yeah, very good, Chris. So one thing I want to add on exactly what Chris just covered was the auto classification, and that is a tool that is should be utilized as much as possible. We experienced it. We had some feedback from the Washington State Highway Patrol. They had the Amtrak derailment case where they scanned that entire scene, and they reported back that with that auto classification tool, they were actually able to clean that scan portion up, within hours from the incident. I mean, and it was done very quickly. There was not a lot of bouncing around. It did a very, very clean cleanup.
And I know there's got to be some questions out there.
Yeah. Chris, are you able to hear me right now?
Bryce, do you have anything?
Yeah. Yasir, can you read off some questions?
Yeah, so I don't know if we lost Chris or not here. I do have a couple of questions here for you guys. First one is from Jack Taylor. He asked, when you brought the E57s from RealWorks into Reveal, did you do one cloud at a time or the entire cloud?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Jack. Actually, we just do one cloud at a time. Typically what I like to do is I will bring in the raw cloud first before we do, or I'll bring, not necessarily before, but I will bring in the unclassified, unsegmented cloud to put that into its own layer just to show what the cloud looked like in Reveal prior to cleanup. And then I will actually start bringing in each one of those classified clouds in individually. Again, we're already knowing how we want to analyze the scene, so we know what we're looking to do to bring into Reveal for the diagramming process. So yeah, each one at a time, and we create a layer inside of Reveal for each one of those scans so we can then turn them on and off. And there's a chance too, there's a possibility that if you do bring in a car layer that you've created for that scan, you might have a couple subfolders in there for specifically that car. Maybe we want to run bullet trajectory rods through that car, and we want to show those rods related to that folder, that layer scan. We want to put that into the sub layers as well, so we can kind of keep those all tied together. Good question.
Awesome. I got another one for you. Does this work on any type of point cloud, such as Pix4D?
Yeah, it absolutely does. So if you're running a Pix4D and you're bringing in the, you're bringing in an LAS, or you're exporting out an LAS out of Pix, you can also bring this into to RealWorks if you need to do some additional work to the cloud. Feel free to bring that in through RealWorks and do the exact same thing if you want to, and kind of tidy it up in that fashion.
And is there a limit to the number of point clouds you can import into RealWorks Forensic to do the segmentation or auto classification?
I'm sure there's a limit somewhere. We just haven't run into it. I know that I've brought in as many as 15 to 20 separate clouds and saved them in the layers. Chris, are you with us now?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, no problem. Have you experienced any limitations as far as the number of clouds that you're bringing into Reveal from RealWorks to layer?
No, I haven't. I've ingested a lot of amounts of point clouds, so 40, 50 individual clouds, but then I've also ingested single large data sets of, 300 million, 400 million, and I haven't really experienced any problems. Sometimes when you get a lot of really dense scans and you're getting up, 700, 800 million points, sometimes things tend to slow down with your computer, but I haven't experienced any problems with reasonably sized data sets.
Awesome. Yeah, so another question here is, on average, how long does the automatic classification process usually take in RealWorks?
Chris, you covered that. You want to kind of broaden that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I can do, just for demonstration purposes, since we've gotten through the meat and potatoes of the webinar, I'm going to, if everybody sees my screen, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the auto classify and we'll let it run here and you can see it. So I'm going to hit extract. Now this is heavily dependent upon your computer. If you're trying to work on an older laptop, this is going to take a while. If you're working on a really high-end desktop machine or a high-end laptop, it's going to go a heck of a lot faster. Also, the size of the point cloud really matters. Again, if you're stepping up to 700, 800 million points, it's going to take a lot longer. But typically, 3-4 minutes is about all it takes.
Keep in mind, this scan is actually an intersection where we had 13 scan setups with the X7. So 52 million points, is just pretty good average on points for a 2.5 minute scan on each one of those scans.
Yeah. So along those same lines, the question that Jack Taylor had, so I have another question for you guys. When importing those individual scans into Reveal, do you have to stitch everything manually together or do they line up automatically?
No, they're lining up based on the original cloud when it was brought in. So where those segmented items or segmented sections that you've reclassified originally fell is the way they're going to come in when they're coordinated with the proper cloud coming into reveal. And that's part of the import process. When you bring that in, there's going to be specific questions. You know, what do you want to relate this particular segmented cloud with, and you pick where you want it to be assigned.
Awesome. So I have another question here from Kevin Hall. Can you ingest any other point cloud data? If so, what format do they need to be in?
Chris, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have on my screen the import point cloud dialog box in Reveal. So I'm just going to zoom in here. I'm going to take my car out, and this will piggyback on Jack's question as well. So what I've done is I've removed my car point cloud. You notice it's gone. In my measurements, I'm going to import my point cloud, and in my drop down, we can import the .capture file directly without doing any cleanup in Trimble RealWorks Forensic, or we can import LAS, LAZ, PLY, E57, RWC, and RWCX. We can ingest a lot of different things here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to browse, I'm going to grab my car, and again, Jack, this will go back to your question. I'm going to position this relative to my ground point cloud, or any of these point clouds would work. I'm going to hit the Start Import button, and we've imported 203 million points. When I click Finish, and I get zoomed back in here, my car is right where I left it, so that it shares or ingests that coordinate system and positions it relative to the other scans in the scene.
Awesome. So I got a question from Jack Hedges. When using the limit box tool in conjunction with the segment tool, should the limit box exclude points outside of the limit box from being segmented into a new point cloud? And he says this best applies to an indoor scene where he wants to put a limit box in his cloud cleanup to a single room. And I think he's had a previous experience where he's had segment points outside his limit box. Have you experienced that, Chris?
I have not. I've not gotten where it'll bring in anything outside of the limit box. Now, I used to use the limit box a lot when I was doing point cloud cleanup. However, what I've begun doing now is if I wanted to grab something on this porch, what I will do with my project cloud in my segmentation, I'll start just from this view, and I'll just do a rough box around it. I'll select I want that in. I'll move over the top, and I want that stuff in. And now this allows me to really get in and find whatever's on that porch, so such as an interior room. Say I just want that object or that room. Keep in. Yeah, I like that object. Now I'll create a new cloud, and it's called Object 13. So now when I close out, now it just has that object. So I used to use the limit box a lot. Since then, I've begun using the segmentation tool to really drill down what I want and haven't run into any problems since.
Awesome. Some more questions for you guys. Are you able to place the vehicles anywhere, such as, for example, point of impact? And I'm assuming that would be in Reveal.
Actually, it can be both. And Chris actually has got a good point on this. We had a conversation last week about this. If you want to cover, you know, how you find yourself working with area of impact vehicles, whether it's in Reveal or RealWorks, what do you got, Chris?
Yeah, so when we're doing like a momentum analysis and we want to determine what angle of approach and upon first touch that these vehicles had, that incoming angle is really critical. So where I like to do that is I like to do that in RealWorks, where I can really work on getting the cloud for one vehicle and the cloud for another aligned just perfectly. And that was going to be a video on next week's Tech Tip Tuesday. So that will be on Tuesday, May 26th. I'm going to be doing a video of just that, is positioning two vehicles together and aligning their crush profile. stitching them back together in RealWorks, and then bringing all of that back into Reveal to put both vehicles back at their place of impact using the positioning of the vehicles in RealWorks. I found positioning them in RealWorks, at least as far as laser scans go, positioning them in RealWorks is a lot more accurate and a lot easier to do from a forensically sound standpoint than it is in Reveal at this time.
Let's keep in mind that RealWorks is really going to help us, and a good way of describing it is they're going to handle anything that you're doing with the point cloud very well. And then Reveal is really, really good with dealing with anything when you're talking about modeling and diagramming. So if you were going to take that same car at the area of impact and bring that into Reveal, I would like to create a model based on that crushed car and then crush that model and work with that crushed model in Reveal, whereas as opposed to working with the actual scan, which I would do in RealWorks. So it's a win-win. You're gonna have pluses on both sides if you do it either which way. I hope that covered your question, but like Chris said, he is going to hold a video on that here coming up.
Perfect. So I got a comment and a question from Daniel. So Daniel says, amazing work. Thanks for sharing. And his question is, for a scene similar to the example that you're showing, Chris, how much time would you typically spend from the preparation, the crash analysis, and getting the deliverables?
Well, that one's going to be that one's a tough one to answer. If it's something like this, and say I had a momentum problem, say here in this intersection where two cars came in, two cars came out, and it was fairly cut and dried from at least on the desktop software end of things, I could probably get this done, including the momentum analysis and getting deliverables out. That wouldn't include my report time, of course, but just getting the analysis done and deliverables out of Reveal and RealWorks, I'd say I could get that done in about 3 to 4 hours, top to bottom, with an analysis with a range of values. I can get it done pretty quick, but I've been working with it a while. Yeah, you can expect a fairly simple case, 3 to 4 hours tops.
That sounds fair. And another question from Hunter, how can we geo-reference in RealWorks?
That is a very good question.
Hunter, stay on the topic, Hunter. Are you kidding me?
So I can probably answer that. So you switch to registration mode, and under registration mode, I believe, yeah, so if you go back to the registration tab, yeah, see that little blue icon right under that one, that's georeferencing right there. And yeah, Hunter, if you need some more details on how to do that, definitely get in touch with me. I can get on a call with you and walk you through that process. It's very simple. All you require is a minimum of really three good points, and RealWorks can start calculating a good transformation for you. And also, I'm being told to tell you to go back to work. So I got one last question here for you guys. If all of those separated clouds were selected in one E57 files, will E57 file, will it show as a separate cloud in Reveal, or does each cloud need to be created into separate E57s?
Okay, so yeah, if we're going to break them up in different classifications, and maybe I'm not understanding the question completely, but if we're going to break them up in separate classifications or segmentations, each one of those is going to be its own E57 coming out and into Reveal. As Chris has on the screen there, he's created layers for each one of those clouds in the subfolder sections, and each one of those is a separate E57. I hope
Perfect.
That was the answer, yes.
Yeah, so I think that was the question. And I think that's pretty much all I got for questions. I do have a comment for you guys from Alexis, who says, thanks, Chris and Bryce. The auto classification features very fast and powerful tool, and the examples that you showed were very clear.
Yeah, thank you very much for that comment. I just want everybody to know that, anything that Chris has done on here, please go to our website at forensics.trimble.com. We also hit up the Trimble Forensics YouTube channel. There's a lot of helpful stuff on there. We try to keep the videos as short as we can because we know your time is valuable, but we also want to give you as much training material out there to kind of help you see different angles that you can actually take with these tools, because you're exactly right, they're very powerful. And we're always looking for improvements, and that's the key to the game for us, is helping you guys. But we need your help to help. So I want to thank you guys for your time, and we hope to maybe meet you and maybe work with you later on down the road.